Hey coaches, yeah, I'm talking to you, but athletes, hang out. Make sure you're still listening to this. Here are some of the exercises that not that I don't like, okay? But they're often done incorrectly. Maybe the range of motion becomes too great or whatever. They're using too much weight or they're using too much body motion to do something. These are some of the exercises I don't recommend. First thing, combinations of exercises, okay? There are some combinations that make sense, okay? Let's say you're picking up a weight off the ground, you clean it, and then maybe you step back into a lunge and you continually do that, okay? Great. But getting on the ground, doing a push-up, rolling over, doing some kicks, rolling over, tapping your feet and coming up and doing jumping jacks and doing a bunch of different exercises back to back, and then let's say do it for 45 seconds, do it for a minute. Do this crazy combination that probably takes you 5 minutes to even figure out. Then, okay, do it for a minute, and then here's a new crazy combination of exercises. There are workout programs that do that, okay? Where you watch the instructor and you're like, what the hell did you just do? And then that instructor says, go. You don't even know what you're trying to do. And then the instructor's ticked off at you because you didn't really understand what the heck he or she was doing, and now they're expecting you to do it. That type of an instructor is the type that's probably just going to stand back and just start a stopwatch and stop the stopwatch. They don't really even care, okay? So make sure if you're going to do a combination of exercises, it makes sense and there's a reason for doing it in that order. Because again, if you're just throwing a bunch of random stuff together so that you can say that your program is, different and new and exciting, again, the chances of your athlete actually changing goes way down, especially in that situation where you're doing a push-up, you roll over, you kick your feet, you come back, you do whatever. Most likely, you're not going to be doing enough push-ups to change your pectoral girdle. You're not doing enough kicks to change or help or stimulate your core or your hip flexors or whatever. Then adding in some awkward motion and flipping back and forth, and you're doing too much variety, okay? Now, I could see do a push-up, tap your shoulders, do a push-up, tap your shoulders, or do a push-up and maybe somehow get your legs through and come back and do a push. But again, when you are throwing in random combinations because, oh shit, I need to Google something quick for my class, you probably shouldn't be an instructor. If you care that little that you're not even preparing yourself for a workout or getting ready more than 5 seconds before class, you probably shouldn't even be an instructor. Okay, let's get past that. Now, what other exercises, Josh, are you a little weary of? So, every exercise, every single one, and here's why. If your athlete is unable to, first of all, make sure that their spine is neutral, right? We've talked about this in the past. If they can't have their spine neutral, they can't control their feet, their shoulder blades don't move first when they're doing any upper body exercise, whatever. If something like that isn't happening, then any exercise is going to be potentially too much for them, right? If they can't control their feet, probably shouldn't make them do a really heavy barbell back squat. If their shoulder blades aren't coming out or moving first, you know what? They probably shouldn't be doing a really heavy bench press or a row or a pull-up or any of the meat and potatoes of our workouts. They need to make sure they're taking the right regression so that we can get the right motions happening, okay? But as a rule of thumb, I'm not much of a lateral raise kind of a guy, okay? Mostly because people think they have to come way up here to do it, and this is just going to cause a lot of impinging. Anytime that your thumb is potentially down and you're trying to raise your arm up, the chances of impingement go way up, okay? And that can happen in the shoulder, that can happen at the bicep. So I really like to stay away from lateral raises. Again, combinations of exercises that just don't make sense, I always want to stay away from those. Then, I like to stay away from anything that we're purposefully challenging your body to a point that form breaks down. So what do you mean, Josh? Let's say running the rack is what it's referred to, where let's say you're doing biceps as a drop set, which is a great way to add intensity to your workout, adding extra repetitions or extra volume to your set. But going from, let's say, doing a bicep curl, where you're nice and controlled, it's all in the biceps, to throwing your body around, when you have to add in extra body motion at all. I don't like that at all, okay? I like strict, perfect form, or at least something close to it. Now, Josh, does that mean you don't like CrossFit? That's not the case, okay? Butterfly pull-ups, thrusters, whatever. Handstand walking, handstand push-ups. If your shoulders are stable, if your spine is neutral, if the right muscles at the right time are doing the work, I'm totally fine with it. There is a special form on how to do a kipping pull-up, a muscle-up, a butterfly pull-up, but a lot of the times, a coach doesn't even understand how to do it themselves, let alone to help someone else embody that exercise. They don't understand, let's say on a butterfly pull-up, their whole body is part of this motion. There's a rhythm to it. There's a lot of things. Once it gets jerky and jolty, you're no longer doing it appropriately, okay? Now, some coaches are going to allow for that jerky, jolty stuff to happen, especially in competition mode. That's when I say, no, that's not the type of exercise I want my athletes doing. But again, if they're doing it appropriately, an appropriate butterfly pull-up where they're using their lats the right way, a proper handstand walk where their shoulders are stable, their whole core is solid, and they have a neutral spine and they're not humped over, I'm totally fine with, okay? But when they get jerky, it's no good. So avoid those awkward, weird combinations. Try to stay away from exercises that your athletes might overdo, right? So let's use another example. I don't like leg extensions, okay? I really don't like leg extensions. Now, Josh, is that because it hurts your knees or? No, I don't. It's not that. It's the fact that you're sitting on a machine, you're locked in tight, and you're performing an exercise with your leg totally fixed, okay? You're extending and not contracting, but you're extending the leg when your leg is totally fixed. All of the stabilizer muscles are not being used. I don't really like machines, okay? But there is a time and there is a place to use them. But we always want to make sure that we use them to affect muscles that are ready or working appropriately. So I wouldn't ever recommend doing a leg press to somebody who can't squat, deadlift appropriately, okay? But Josh, some of my athletes can't perform a squat. Some of my athletes can't perform a deadlift, and a machine allows them to move. There is an exception, okay? But if your only thought with this person is, well, they can't do a squat, so I'm only going to let them do leg press, but never help them with their squat, now we've got problems, okay? Because you're teaching their body how to move in absence of the stabilizer muscles, and you're not even considering trying to help their squat, their deadlift, or whatever. So we always want to build into perfect, better form, and we always want to watch for it. So stay away from some odd combinations, exercises that you can take too far, and exercises that don't allow good quality movement.